Welcome back to The Griot. We're spending the hour with comedian KevOnStage, and it's time for a game that we like to play here. It's called This or That. Now, Kev, this is a rapid-fire game. I'm going to give you two options, and you just got to pick one. No hesitation, no caveats. We can talk about it at the end, but all you do is just pick one, all right? The category is comedians. All right, first up, Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy?
Eddie Murphy.
Monique or Wanda Sykes?
Monique.
Bernie Mac or Dave Chappelle?
Bernie Mac.
Chris Rock or Martin Lawrence?
Martin Lawrence.
Interesting. Kevin Hart or Mike Epps?
Kevin Hart.
Okay, so I'm noticing a pattern here. Talk to me a little, real fast. I know we got to go. But is there a certain style of comedian that you like more than another?
Yes, I tend to like big, brash, physical comedy, antics. That tends to be my comedy of choice. Like, my favorite comedian is Arnez J, and he's probably the most zany on stage. He literally is like pouring sweat when he's done. So absolutely big, brash, loud, funny is my style.
That makes sense. I want to talk to you about your style and how you got to the path that you were on and how you managed to stay on that path, a very unconventional one. We'll talk about it right after the break. Everybody stay right here with KevOnStage.
What's up, Rancho Cucamonga? Yes! I have a leather jacket on because I'm a comedian now. I feel like I'm special because I have a leather jacket on. But it's expensive leather jacket on, so I'm taking it back tomorrow.
That is KevOnStage in his first stand-up comedy special, Funny in Real Life. I want to thank y'all for staying with me again. I'm your host, Marc Lamont Hill. July is Black Comedy Month, and tonight we're celebrating with my special guest, KevOnStage. He's been spending an hour with us talking about a lot of stuff, including the headlines of the week. But now I want to learn a little bit more about you, sir, because first of all, the idea of calling your special Funny in Real Life is interesting because a lot of people know you as the internet guy. If you know anything about the internet, it's that people are very different in real life. Some of the most outspoken, clever, interesting, nuanced, witty people on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok can be like, just like watching paint dry in real life. You, on the other hand, as your special says, are funny in real life. Talk to me about the difference between what you do online and what you do in real life.
Yeah, I think, so I started doing stand-up comedy before the internet. And then I lived in Seattle, Washington, Tacoma, Washington, actually. And it's much harder to grow as a comedian there. So I used the internet to grow my fans, invite people to shows and things like that. And then the internet persona got much bigger than the stand-up personality that I was in Tacoma. So by the time I started touring, a lot of people didn't even know I did stand-up comedy at all. So I called that special Funny in Real Life because, unfortunately, there was a lot of internet comedians who were funny on the internet, and then stand-up comedy clubs were like, come here, we'll put you up for the weekend. And people would go to those shows and be like, oh, they're not really funny in real life. They're funny on their videos. They're not funny on stage. And what a lot of people fail to realize.
What's the difference? What's the difference, man? What makes somebody that damn funny online and so unfunny in a club?
Do you remember that episode of The Fresh Prince when he thought he could do what D.L. Hughley did? And he went on stage and bombed, and D.L. was like, so what people don't understand is, one, it's a discipline, and two, most good comedians make it seem like it's not hard. It's supposed to feel like we're just talking to you like we would at a cookout, but that's also part of the design. That's part of the skill set, to make you feel like I'm just talking to you and not 300, 500 people. And the other part is it takes time. It takes time. Like my wife says, stand-up is it's the mastery of 5 or so different social skills. You got timing, originality, creativity, stage presence, reading an audience. Like, you're doing all that stuff at the same time. And it's a skill that you don't naturally fall into. You can be funny, but you still have to develop the skill for that art form. And I think that's what people don't understand. And they're like, oh, I made these videos. But funny on the internet is like, I can make a funny TikTok. Anybody can make a funny TikTok. And that takes a different skill. And I'm one of the people that believes that it's not a lesser skill. They are just different skills. And most people haven't developed both skills. So I think I've just worked on both skills, what works on the internet and what works on stage. And I actively work on both skills. And that's why I have success in both arenas. And that's not usually the case. People don't usually work on both skills. Oh, being on stage easily. There's no feeling like having a crowd full of people dying, laughing, wiping their eyes, doubled over, like posting a video that goes viral. Eventually, if it gets viral enough, people turn on you anyway. So that doesn't happen in real life. If you're having a good set, people are not like, this is so funny, I actually hate him now. Like that, but that happens online. It gets so big, people are like, actually, he's not funny to me, and this wasn't funny at all. And you're like, okay, well now I've reached too far outside my audience. People don't know what I'm talking about, don't get the joke. But that doesn't happen on stage. People are there to have a good time. They laugh, they go home. They don't write a think piece about it. They just either enjoy it or don't enjoy it.
That's interesting. I'm not surprised that you said that because, there's something to be said about, crowds and engaging crowds. I feel it the same way. But your online presence is so real to us. We feel like we know you. We feel like we talk to you every day. We feel like we know your family, because of the stories you tell and the images you show. And you've managed to turn that into a certain kind of career of its own, right? I mean, you created your own content, then you made your own streaming service. You built a following through social media. I would imagine that gives you a certain kind of freedom, no?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, you have a lot of freedom. You have, I don't have a boss, so to speak, to answer to. I just have an audience to entertain, please, and try to grow. But it also comes with its own challenges. Like when I worked other jobs, I had their resources to help create, and I had to work with their rules and their notes. But now I have my own resources, and it's expensive. You know what I'm saying? You want to make something that's amazing that you dream of. If you're owning it and doing it on your own, then it's expensive. And if it doesn't do well and you don't, reap the benefit, then you just lost. So I think both have their, pros and cons, but I think I'd rather be here than when I was working at Boeing, still in notebooks.
Absolutely. Now, when you prepared for your comedy special, though, did you have to kind of turn off that internet voice in your head, or did you have to kind of disable that style for a little bit to focus purely on the comedy part?
Yeah, I think I was just talking about this to my wife. The thing that's really interesting about the internet is it is a stamp in time of where you were at that moment, right? And what you thought was funny and all that type of stuff. But in stand-up comedy, it's a present version of you, right? So if a joke is no longer funny and it's taboo, you just stop selling it on stage. You know what I'm saying? But on the internet, people go back time and be like, you thought this was funny then? And I was like, yeah, that was like 10 years ago, 8-9 years ago. Obviously I don't think the same way now. So I think in real life, stand-up is really interesting that you do have to turn that off. You don't have to rush. Like on a TikTok, I need to get your attention in 3 seconds. If I don't get you to stop doing this, you're not going to hear what I have to say. But if I have your attention for an hour, 45 minutes, you're already here. I can take my time. I can tell you a story. I can set up a joke, a punchline. And a TikTok or a reel, I got to get your attention 3 seconds flat or you're gone. And on the real stage, I can say, hey, how you doing, man? Blah, 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 whatever. I can take my time. And the opposite is true on the internet. I can't take my time on it. I can't be like, what I think is funny? The thing about this, you're gone. You've already scrolled past my video. Right. You don't have no time. So that's one example of how what works on one platform doesn't work on the other and vice versa.
No, that totally makes sense. Do you now feel that you have a duty to respond to what your audience wants? Like, for example, you do certain stuff for church culture. And when you talk about church culture, the church folk love it. And there's a whole bunch of churched black folk, right? Do you feel like, all right, I ain't did a church video in a while, let me do that to keep them, or let me do one about my relationships so they know I'm still doing that, or do I do one, with my beard shaved so they know I can still keep that joke coming? Like, do you feel constrained or pushed by those people?
No, luckily for me, I make so many different types of videos. As long as I feel like what I did was funny, I'm okay. I think I used to feel like I only had church videos to make, so I would shy away from. I'm not going to make any because I don't want to be the guy who only does church stuff. But I am a church kid at heart, and the majority of my life is from the church. So I'm always going to look at things through that lens. So when it makes sense, I'm going to do that. And I kind of remind people like, oh, he is just really a church kid. But for the most part, I do a lot of nostalgic videos, food videos, things I learned, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever is present to me that day is the video that I make. And I just go by whatever. But I never feel like I have to appease a certain audience. I just do what's funny to me. And then I hope whoever it's for, they find it.
Well, certainly the audience is finding it. They're distributing it. I follow you, but at the same time, your videos get sent to me. Everybody DMs me your videos. They post them. They jack them from TikTok or Instagram and make them into their own videos and put them on YouTube. You know, all this stuff, man. It's like sometimes, you know, you get frustrated that people steal your stuff, but the fact that it's getting stolen at such a high rate means that you matter. And your voice matters to our people, man. So we're proud of you. We're excited for you. And we can't wait to see what's next. All right, family, we've reached the end of the show. But before I let you go, it's been a pleasure to have KevOnStage tonight on the show. And all month you'll be hearing from black comedians as we celebrate the long and deep tradition of black comedy. Some people think black folk don't take nothing serious. You'll even see on the internet, you know, jokes or people responding to stuff saying, you know, we don't take anything seriously. Let me be very clear. Black folk have always taken our lives seriously. We've always taken our condition seriously. We've always taken our suffering and our quest for justice seriously. But we've also been able to laugh. Laughter has been a form of expression. It has been a form of joy. Laughter has been a work of resistance in a world that doesn't want us to be happy. Laughter has been a way for us to take the tragic and transform it into the comic. And that tragic comic sensibility that you hear from comedians when they talk about the worst parts of our experience, the worst events that could happen, and they make us laugh about it, that's how we stay sane. That's how we stay whole. That's how we end up not losing our minds up in here. That's how we're able to continue to fight and live another day. So don't ever feel ashamed because you laugh. Feel pride that you have the ability and the spiritual power and the moral maturity to laugh and to find joy in the midst of all this misery, because that's what's going to get us to freedom.